Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, Chapter 47. The Inevitable Result of Impartial Mentation. Beelzebub intended to say more, but just then everything was suddenly lit up with a pale blue something. From that moment, the falling of the ship Karnak began to diminish perceptibly in speed. All this meant that one of the great cosmic ego-leonoptes was about to come alongside the spaceship Karnak. And indeed, through the transparent outer parts of the ship Karnak, the source of that pale blue something soon became visible, which lit up not only the whole of the interior of the ship Karnak, but also all the space of the universe surrounding this great cosmic ego-leonopte, as far as the ordinary vision of beings could reach. Of these great ego-leonoptes, there were only 4 in the universe, and each of them is under the jurisdiction of one of the 4 all-quarters maintainers of the universe. A hurried and anxious commotion began among all of the beings aboard, and in a short time, all the passengers and the crew assembled in the main hall situated in the center of the ship. Each of them bore a branch of myrtle in one hand and a Dev del Cachot in the other. When the great cosmic ego-leonopte had come alongside the ship Karnak, certain parts of the latter were moved apart in a special way, and there passed from the ego-leonopte into the main hall of the ship a procession composed of several archangels and a multitude of angels, cherubim, and seraphim. And they all, too, bore branches in their hands, but of palm. At the head of this procession walked a venerable archangel, and immediately after him 2 cherubim followed solemnly, bearing a casket from which something also radiated, but this time something orange. In front of everyone in the main hall of the ship Karnak stood Beelzebub, and behind him were ranged his kinsmen, and the captain of the ship and all the others stood behind them at a respectful distance. When the said procession from the ego-leonopte neared the beings of Beelzebub's nature who were assembled in expectation, they halted, and all of both forces, differently natured 3-brained beings, joined together in singing the hymn to our endlessness, which hymn is always sung on such occasions everywhere in the universe by beings of all natures and all forms of exterior coating. This hymn consists of the following words: Thou long-patient Creator of all that breathes, Thou abundantly loving Cause of all that exists, Thou unique vanquisher of the merciless hero pass, now to the sounds of our glorifying. Only rejoice and abide in beatitude. By thy unprecedented labors thou hast given us the beginning of our arisings. By the vanquishing of the hero pass have we obtained the possibility of perfecting ourselves to the sacred Anklad. And now only rest as merited, and we in gratitude will maintain all that thou hast created, and always and in all things will extol thee forever, extol thee, Maker-Creator, thou the beginning of all ends, thou proceeding from infinity, thou having the end of all things within thyself, thou our endless endlessness. When the hymn had been sung, the venerable archangel approached Beelzebub and solemnly proclaimed, by the decree of his all-quarters maintainer, the arch-cherub Peshtvogner, and bearing his own sacred rod, we appear before you, your right reverence, in order to restore to you, in accordance with the pardon granted you from above, and for certain of your merits, what you lost during your exile, your horns. Having said this, the venerable archangel turned toward the casket borne by the cherubim, and with profound reverence carefully took from it the sacred rod. Meanwhile, all those present knelt down on one knee, while the angels and cherubim began to sing the appropriate sacred canticles. Taking the sacred rod in his hand, the archangel turned again towards Beelzebub and spoke thus to the beings of Beelzebub's nature. Beings created by our same unibeing endlessness, who has pardoned this once erring being Beelzebub, who by infinite grace of our Creator will again exist among you, beings like himself. As the variety and degree of reason of beings of your nature are defined and manifested by the horns on your head, we must, with the permission of our all-quarters maintainer, and with your help, restore the horns lost by Beelzebub. Beings created by our one common Father, your aid will consist in this, that each of you should consent to renounce for Beelzebub's merited pardon certain particles of your own horns. Whosoever therefore consents and wishes to do so, let him approach the sacred rod and touch its handle. And on the length of time the handle of the sacred rod is held will depend the amount of active elements passing from your own horns for the formation of the corresponding horns on this pardoned being of your nature. Having said this, the venerable archangel, holding the chief end of the sacred rod, that is, the ball, over the kneeling Beelzebub, turned the handle towards those there assembled in such a way that whoever wished might touch it. As soon as the venerable archangel had finished speaking, a very great commotion began among the beings of Beelzebub's nature, each desiring to approach nearer and to be the first to touch the sacred rod with their hands as long as possible. Order, however, was soon established, and each then, in turn, approached and held the handle for as long as was indicated by the captain of the ship, who had taken upon himself the necessary direction. During the solemn sacred action, horns, little by little, began to grow upon the head of Beelzebub. At first, while just the bare horns were being formed, only a concentrated quiet gravely prevailed among those assembled. But from the moment that the forks began to appear upon the horns, a tense interest and rapt attention began to be manifested among them. This latter state proceeded among them because everybody was agitated by the wish to learn how many forks would make their appearance on Beelzebub, since by their number the gradation of reason to which Beelzebub had attained, according to the sacred measure of reason, would be defined. First one fork formed, then another, and then a third, and as each fork made its appearance, a clearly perceptible thrill of joy and unconcealed satisfaction proceeded among all those present. As the fourth fork began to be formed on the horns, the tension among those assembled reached its height, since the formation of the fourth fork on the horn signified that the reason of Beelzebub had already been perfected